Bonjour, je m'appelle Fernando. Je suis habité en Suisse, à Lausanne. Je parle français très bien, mais on va faire la présentation en anglais. Très bien? Pas de problème? Je peux parler aussi en espagnol, mais je préfère l'anglais pour maintenant. Buenos días. So, my name is Fernando Cevallos. I have the honor and the blessing to be here with you guys, sharing some of the experiences that has been for me in my professional career, and sharing the best practices that is around the globe, and working and living in different countries has allowed me to see and understand different bribery risks in different parts of the world. Just a brief introduction. I was born and raised in Ecuador. Right now I'm living in Mexico City. I arrived last night, so I'm very happy for Bernard, who received me and hosted me last night and brought me to the hotel across the street. And I really wanna share the experience and how we developed the ISO 37001. I was part of the global leadership since 2014. I was leading the global communication task group, and since then I've been evangelizing and talking to the rocks to different parts of the world, especially when bribery doesn't make much sense, since there's a lot of impunity, there's no rule of law, and there's a lot of issues going around those places that I have been working and sharing the gospel of anti-bribery of ISO 37001. So I just want to break the ice. Go ahead. Yeah, sure. Okay. So I just want to break the ice with a little exercise. So when you see these 4 flags, okay, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? For example, Brazil. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Bribery scandals. Okay, soccer, samba, caipirinha. I lived there for 5 years, so I was one of the pioneers of the compliance, and I know what's going on there. So good, bribery, soccer, samba, and maybe caipirinha. Those are my favorite things, by the way. When you see the Mexico flag, what do you see? What comes to your mind first? Earthquake, okay, yes, I was there, not fun. It's my first time actually living in an earthquake, so it was really, really hard for me and my family. Everything was okay. But what else comes to your mind besides earthquake? Cartels, okay, narcs, drugs, corruption, yes. So you're talking, some people will say tequila, and some others will say mariachis, right? And nachos and guacamole. Depends where part of the world you are, right? And when you see the flag of, the other flag, the Peruvian flag. Oh? Food, yes, gastronomy. Drugs as well. What else? I want to have a session that's interactive and bring your ideas, because I want to just land it in somewhere that I really just want you to take that away with you. Machu Picchu, good, and llamas and all the good things. But right now, Peru is very active in the ISO 37001, and the government has been very, very strong on saying and dictating that ISO 37001 has to be implemented in the companies that are doing business with the government. So it's kind of a mandatory thing. When you see the other flag, Saudi Arabia, what comes to your mind? Sorry? Terrorists? Okay, that's so good. Go ahead. Corruption, the recent scandals, that the new prince or the king-to-be is very strong on that. I had a blessing to be in Saudi Arabia last year and this year to dictate some similar courses that I have been talking in different parts of the world, and they invited me in Saudi Arabia to be there. And actually I realized that I look Saudi. I have my Saudi dress, and I really look Saudi, and I really love the culture. But right now, all the corruption scandals has been really, really interesting, because Saudi Arabia, there's a vision of Saudi Arabia being changed towards 2030, and that's something that gives you an idea right now that happens with the king-to-be putting people in jail. That seems to be they're sending the right message, right? This is something that they need to attack, the corruption and bribery from the roots. So everything that you see, these 4 flags, and then we can keep showing the map, and maybe things are coming to your mind, but all things that are right now happening while I speak and you're sitting there, it's about bribery, it's about corruption, it's about drugs, it's about cartel, and all the good things that also around these countries that can provide you very, very nice hospitality and enjoyable things that you can definitely have fun in different places. So, but right now the world has changed. I don't think that it's because there's more bribery. I think there's more awareness about bribery. People are connected immediately just by Twitter or by Facebook or anything that's going on right now in any part of the world. We are connected, and bribery has become a big issue. So people are saying, okay, I don't want to talk about that bribery is bad. Everything is about bribery. Everybody here agrees that bribery is really bad. But the thing is then how to tackle bribery, how to mitigate the risk of bribery. How we are committed to fight bribery as a whole, as from the private sector, from the public sector, and from NGOs. How we are going to tackle bribery. So that has been one of the cases that I have been facing, and things that has, okay, Fernando, what is the tool, what are the methodology, what are the things that you want to see and happening in the global market with the ISO 37001. So I want to just share some examples about different industries. I want you to follow me, what's going on and what had happened. These are examples that really impacted my professional life, almost 20 years working in this field and talking to the rocks in different parts of the world. But I'm finally very happy to see that the rocks are speaking back to me. So one of the things that in mining industry, for example, this was in Mexico, and Canada is very known for the mining industry, very strong worldwide. So this is what happened in Mexico, just 3 hours, 4 hours away from Mexico City. And another state, in the state of Guerrero, very close to Acapulco, probably you have heard that beach. So this company, who has worldwide operations in the mining industry, acquired a Mexican entity without doing a proper due diligence. What means a proper due diligence? Knowing where they're operating, who are your partners, who are the stakeholders, what's the area, what's the risk. One of the main things concerned in Mexico, there are two main things for investors, unfortunately. One is corruption, and the other one is security, right? So the main two things is that the general manager was from here, I think. I don't remember exactly where he was from, but he was a foreigner living in this state, put in this entity, and he was kidnapped because he immediately said the payment that's going out of the window for X amount of dollars, and what's $100,000 monthly for extortion payments, so they can be safe. We're going to stop it immediately. So what do you think was the reaction of the cartels? Exactly. Say they were not happy with it. So they decided to put a plan together to kidnap this person. This person was kidnapped. He was rescued alive. They paid some X amount of money for ransom. And the general manager decided to do an internal investigation. So there's a little bit of background. I started doing this practice as a forensic accountant, as a forensics investigation. Then I shifted to the reactive, still doing investigations, but I'm more focused right now on the prevention side. That's why I'm focusing this ISO 37001. So after this particular issue happened, we initiated an internal investigation, and we found out that everything was basically coordinated internally. The driver, the person from social responsibility, the finance person, the procurement person, everybody was providing information to the cartels via WhatsApp to how it has been his schedule, his agenda, and etc. So when you see this type of issues, then we found out that the company was not only paying $100,000 for extortion, but it also was paying that part. The portion of that was going to the municipality, to the president of the municipality, was going to the police, was going to the militaries, was going to the cartels, was going to a kickback fund. So it was distributed among many people that basically that were committing corruption, they were committing fraud, they were supporting money laundering, they were supporting extortion, They were supporting kidnapping, and there was also conversations about taking powder from point A to point B using the trucks of the company. So they were involved also in drug cartels. So, question back to you. If you were the CEO of the company, what would you do? Resign? Get out? So this is a funny story. The CEO of the company, global CEO, came to Mexico. We met in Mexico City. Him and the compliance officer was meeting in a meeting room in my office, and they both came suddenly to my office, closed the door, sit down in my office, said, "Fernando, what would you do? Don't put the." I would say, I mean, this is your decision, but I won't put this in the report. But if I were you, I would leave the country. This will cost you so much to resolve and mitigate that you never know if it is going to be a positive reaction to this. So basically that's what happened. They packed their things, and last year they left Mexico. So what happened is emerging markets. Are we safe enough to secure investment? Are we taking the right measurements to protect the assets and the lives of the company members? Maybe not. Maybe it's not enough, because people are talking different languages, right? We are just talking different things, and we see things differently. So moving to another example, and this is something that happened in Monterrey. This is an American guy called me through a reference and said, "Fernando, I'm going to Monterrey and kill someone." Like, that's what he said, started his statement. Like, "Okay, nice to meet you. What do you mean killing someone?" Yes, I'm a former Marine, SEAL Marine, and really upset because I trusted a Mexican person that I started doing business. So this is a story. He told me a story. They met back in 2008, I think, in a fair, international fair. The Mexican approached him. "Hey, I like your products. Maybe I can commercialize it in Mexico." So it was a simple transaction, right? You put the purchase order, I'll sell it to you, you pay, that's it. So business was picking up the pace, and then the Mexican said, "Hey, why I don't become your distributor, your exclusive distributor here in Mexico?" "Oh, sounds good, right? Because we have been doing business for a couple years, and it seems reasonable. The volumes has been increasing, and you have the right contact at the right place." It was a government entity, by the way, that he was selling these products. And picking up the pace again, and they said, "Hey, why we don't open a company here, and I'll become a subsidiary of your company in the U.S. And he said, "Okay, that sounds reasonable, We have been doing business already for 7 years. Let's do it." So they established a company there. So what had happened then? The person that he was trusting, developing the business in this emerging market, he was basically opening another company, buying through another company, keeping the margin in the other company, the third party, and resell it to the subsidiary. So it was basically all the funds, all the earnings, all the EBIT was staying in another external company that he established. He was the owner, and he was basically all the sales from the headquarters to the subsidiary was increasing, and the third party was increasing. So then he realized, obviously, he was upset, How many of you have operations overseas that can detect some type of weird activity in emerging markets that definitely calls your attention, This was a simple transaction, one-on-one, right? It's very simple. But maybe you operate in different parts of the world that you don't see that activity. You don't have that visibility where you are sitting, and you don't see that's an issue. So what happened is that person, he's a former SEAL Marine, a very tall guy, very strong guy. He looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger, very nice guys too. He came with his former troop, 4 guys dressed as a Marines, arrived in Monterrey, and I stopped them. I was looking like this to him, and they say, "Hey, you not doing anything like that. You cannot go inside. This is your office, but you cannot break and point someone in the face or on the head with a gun. That's not the way we do business, and that's not the way we are doing this. So he calmed down, he relaxed, and we decided to proceed with the investigation. The key part of this, or the key issue about this, is that the person who was operating this business in Mexico as a subsidiary of the U.S. entity, he was what? He did transfer all the brands, all the brands to the other company. So it's 100% owned by the other company, and he said, if you sue me, I won't return you your brands and the copyrights. These are mine in Mexico. So what would you do? What would be the decision that you would take? You kill the guy, or or you decide to do something different? Sorry? Yeah. So maybe he proceeded to to criminal charges against this person, but still, you know, Roberto is here and he's Mexican, and in Mexico it could take years to get solved a criminal charges. So may not happen anything. That's the reality. So again, this person trusted. How many of you trusted third parties? How many of you trusted vendors? How many of you trusted people that are doing business on your behalf that you haven't done a proper due diligence from the beginning? So I wanted you to set up this example because we want to make sense in a couple of minutes. Automotive, undisclosed conflict of interest. I won't go deep, but this is very common, not only in the automotive industry. This was a Japanese client talking and working in South America and working in different parts of South America, including Mexico as well, having issues with undisclosed conflict of interest. So are we doing a proper disclosure? We are disseminating the conflict of interest policies around the globe in your operations. How difficult is to prevent conflict of interest? You know, there are companies that are working remotely in different parts of the world, in emerging markets, that when you go in, you find out that the procurement guy is the uncle of the secretary, and the secretary has his dad working in the factory, and his dad has also she also has his brother working as a driver, because that's part of the community. Is that okay or not okay? Should we prevent it? Should we educate the people? Should we tell them the right procedures and processes to be having this undisclosed or disclosed in the conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest? So right now you're sitting here in Canada, but right now where we are living and we're working, we're dealing with different issues, with these real type of issues. And the Japanese client said, Fernando, but that's really bad. You know, in Japan we cannot do that. Welcome to Mexico. Welcome to Ecuador. Welcome to Colombia. Welcome to Peru. That's the way to do business here. And my daughter started studying in a Japanese school, so I kind of getting to know more about the Japanese culture as well, and then I introduce myself at least. But here's the deal. They have a different mindset. We all in this room have different mindsets. And then that's something that we need to embrace, but at the same something, there's something that we need to have something in common, that we can talk the same language. Transportation. You know, this is something, is a maritime industry, okay? Specifically talking about ships and embarkments and ports. And this person was basically charged, the legal director, he was charged, allegedly charged, to be having a fraud, committed fraud for $4 million and purchased an apartment in a very nice neighborhood in Mexico City. So we identified the effectively he was doing. There was a transfer that he asked the headquarters to transfer to a Panama account, and you know the Panama Papers, and nowadays the Paradise Papers. And then this person basically transferred the money to an unknown entity that was supposed to be a consultant, and that unknown entity transferred to someone's bank account to purchase the apartment. He made a mistake. He put as a copy of that purchase in his corporate email. So we found out through the corporate email. But then we're doing the interviews with different people around Latin America and around Asia. We found out that the general manager of this entity in different parts of the world saying, and that's what something that really, really, really knocked me off. Say, Fernando, we don't understand why the company is pursuing someone that had committed fraud for $4 million when the CEO is asking us to bribe government officials to gain and retain business. Okay? So, what would you do? Do you focus on the fraud only? Or do you focus on the bigger issue, which is bribing and retaining government officials to retain and gain businesses? What will be your priority? What will be your priority? That's something that talks about the culture of the company. We report that, the CEO say, Fernando, we want to focus only on the fraud, the corruption matter. That's the way we do business. So that's the culture of the company. So when there's someone that's committed and constantly saying and instructing people to give this type of payments, there's an issue, right? There's an issue because we are seeing and identifying a pattern where you are promoting this type of payments. You are promoting this type of activities, which is part of the culture. Do you think that company can change the culture? No? Or yes? It has to come from the top. But do you think that the owner or the CEO can change his mindset? May not. I will not. Who knows? I mean, we're talking about different people. We're talking about different individuals. We're talking about organizations that are made of all of us. And if we own a company, I spoke once with a compliance officer that wants to implement ISO 37001, but he told me, but the CEO does not agree to implement this. I'm bringing the idea. So I told this guy, good luck. When you are convinced that this will work and the CEO is engaged and committed to have this in place, call me back. Sorry, I like you. We are friends for a couple of years, but this is not the way. This is not going to work. Unfortunately, it's not going to work. And the last one. This is a recent case where this pharmaceutical company is promoting their products through a public hospital and through public pharmacies, and then it's found out that it's supposed to be sales out of the shop to this hospital, but the shop is reselling to the distributor, and the distributor is reselling it to the black market. So how you mitigate that? And what is the issue there? This is a prescribed medicine that needs to have some controls. And when you do that, it's a bigger issue. And people were in the headquarters saying, why we are investigating this? Like, okay, this is something that's really wrong. These are the risks. These are the exposure. These are the sanctions. If you invest this, it could be a bigger issue. And not only here, but it could be a practice all over the world, all over emerging markets, all over Latin America. So I think the five these examples, I want to bring it to you because we are talking and dealing with bribery, fraud, corruption, extortion, drug cartels all the time. All the time. It's not about Mexico only. It's about all Latin America. It's not about Saudi Arabia. It's probably about the entire Middle East. It's not about only China. I just came back from Singapore, and one of the main issues that the Singaporeans are facing and keep facing is that how to do business outside Singapore. Singapore is a corruption-free country in quotes, and they are doing a great job in the island, in the country. However, when you work outside Singapore, Indonesia, or Malaysia, which are the neighbor countries, there are issues they don't know how to deal with. So it doesn't matter. I saw the previous presentation. There are different cases here in Canada, but maybe they are different in other emerging markets. You have to put it in that way. So besides those cases, I want to just share with you some couple of examples about the different common risks. Top-down instructions, relative or friend, probably a conflict of interest. Having a nice and sophisticated last name. This is something I want to give you an example. I had a good friend that he He used to work for the Social Security hospital in Mexico, and he said he was the secretary of the procurement guy, and he said to me, it is something that's really, really horrible the way corruption is. He comes with a nice last name or a nice referral and say, you have to buy me X amount of aspirins, and like, what do you mean? Are you a pharmaceutical? No. Are you represent a pharmaceutical company? No. Do you distribute medicine? No. But I have this last name. Okay, got it. That's the way it works. The company, behind the company name, there are people with very sophisticated and very nice last names. So are we understanding with whom we are doing business? We are just saying openly that that's the right thing to do. Are we just doing enough to understand what are the risks and what are the issues that are going on in emerging markets? Unions, white and black. We're talking about unions. When we talk about unions, we said, okay, what type of unions are we dealing with? Are we dealing with white unions that are very nice and very favorable to us, that no one complains? Or we're talking about black unions like the PT in Brazil, with Lula leading, and that's how he became president and the most popular, powerful guy and marketing guy in the world. How the unions are dealing with? How you're dealing with the unions? Are very influential? Can they make any type of decisions on your behalf? Can they expose your brand in different parts of the world? Can you commit to saying that the unions are not linked to drug cartels or to political parties or to any type of illegal activities? How you are mitigating your unions? Unions are a very common thing to deal with in emerging markets, because it gives you a very, very dark space where you cannot enter easily. You have to have some political skills. You have to have some understanding what are the key drivers of the unions. Associations. You may think, hey, I belong to different associations in different parts of the world. And does it make sense to be part of those associations? Are these associations being lately involved in different bribery scandals? These associations are very powerful in these countries that can really expose my brand. I'm associating with someone that is dealing with bribery in that group, and I could be related to that. Think about that. I mean, what are the associations that your company belongs to different emerging markets? And what exposure do you have? How you're mitigating that? Everything is about your brand. Everything is about how to prevent and get the best reputation of all in one single strategy, and focus on that strategy and drive through that strategy. Extortion, I already gave you an example, but it is common. And there's a very thin line between extortion and bribery. They say, I'm being asked because I'm gonna be killed. Okay, that's something different, right? You are saving your life, and you have to document it, and you have to report it, and you have to make a decision about that before you accept doing that, because it's something about death or life, right? Nobody wants to be killed by an extortionist or a group of cartels, right? No one. But how to deal with it? But when that extortion becomes a bribery, that's a different issue. You are just basically disguising the extortion portion with a bribery thing. That's a different thing. And then when that extortion, bribery, and turns into a fraud or a kickback, that's a different thing. Because every single thing starts from the very beginning, right? You know the mindset of someone that's corrupt. So that's something that you need to understand. Where's the thin line? Where are you operating, and what are the risks around that area that you are operating? Macroeconomic restrictions. There are some countries where they have some restrictions in the foreign exchange. A couple of years ago was Argentina, still Venezuela. I don't know how many of you have businesses in Venezuela, but it's very, very serious thing to deal with it right now. I have done extensively work in Venezuela, not for the last 2-3 years, but it's a huge issue there. There's nothing there. There's no rule of law. There's no ways to have that level of confidence in the market to do business in. But again, where are you operating? Are you having some FX issues there? Why? Because I work in Argentina in a case where it was 100 million embezzlement due to FX transactions. Just because were triangling that through a third party. Again, someone was making money. It was $100 million impact in the financial statements of this company. Because they were selling US dollars, they were getting paid in pesos, and unfortunately the exchange rate was getting a favorable effect. Someone was making money outside the company, and someone was making good money inside of the company. So it was a win-win for everybody, right? It was in total approximately $100 million embezzlement. How many of your companies are willing to face $100 million in embezzlements? The other one, the figurehead, all the papers, right? That was a mistake. All the papers that you are basically investigating. Right now, the Paradise Papers, the Panama Papers, the election times, how it's getting funded, the PECB places, cash for bribery, and I want to stop on that. You know that people are getting so creative that they can go to PECB places, ask for a fake invoice, they get back cash, and they bribe government officials in cash. You know, it is something. They are very, very creative things. You know, how many of you are checking constantly your T&Es? How many of you are checking where are the investments of your key employees or the key executive? How many of you are understanding where are the elections going on, which part of the world, and how that can impact your company? Right now, next year is going to be an election in Mexico. How many of you have businesses in Mexico that can be impacted your company? Not only from an economical perspective, not only from a growth perspective, but also from a reputational perspective. Are your company willing to support any political party? Is this something that is legal? So, you know, we are working in a world that there are so many questions to be asked, and there are very few answers and very few things to how to mitigate those risks. And this is a common denominator, the impunity, unfortunately. Everywhere you go, except for different cases, example cases, Guatemala, Ecuador, they just put in jail or just as being a prison order in Ecuador for the vice president. Guatemala put vice president and president in jail. The president in Brazil. The cases right now going on in Peru, where it has been for a while with Fujimori and the Fujimori family. And then there are different examples about different cases around the world. But always gonna be is an X factor, right? Impunity. Unfortunately, people are saying, I don't implement any compliance programs. I don't implement any prevention measurements. I don't implement ISO 37001 because I know there's nothing going to happen. So let's put it the other way. What if you implement this type of preventions or this type of certification and you push this from a private sector to the public sector, saying, I don't bribe because I am supported by an international standard that can prevent, that don't allow me to pay bribes anymore. Sorry. It cannot delete your past, but I can definitely set up the strategy for the future. Because that's the common language. And I just want to ask you a couple questions about that, just for your reflection. It is something that is nice to have or must to have. ISO 37001 is a nice to have thing for you guys, or a must to have thing for you guys. As part of the global leadership of this ISO 37001, I was honored and blessed to be part of leading the communication task group, and we were asking this question: is it nice to have or a must to have? I recently, if you can check out my LinkedIn page, I just share an article about Microsoft, how they're fighting against bribery, and I was a co-author with the Microsoft head of compliance, a good friend of mine, Jude Helsforth. And they are doing it as a nice to have for them, but a must to have in some other jurisdictions, because they are taking the proactive step. They are taking this as a serious measurement of fighting corruption. What is the impact in the market? What is the impact in your market? Maybe in Canada it doesn't make much sense. Maybe in the US it doesn't make much sense. There are different type of bribery issues, right? But in other parts of the world where you operate, It makes a lot of sense. It makes something that really clicks in your employees, really clicks in the community, really clicks in the government officials, really clicks in the society. We're talking about a common language. We're not talking about here by some random idea or random things that did not happen. We worked this very hard, and I have 3 daughters, and this is the only boy that I have. This is the only boy that I have. So we want really to have this little standard to be very effective in different parts of the world. Coming from mature countries like Canada, US, that have really robust compliance programs, really robust entities that have really robust compliance programs that really can effectively support the standard and cascade it down to different parts of the world. So what is the value added for you guys? Can it be mandatory? There are some parts of the world that if you are not doing, you don't have the certification, doesn't say 37001, you have to have an international compliance certification, anti-bribery certification in order to do business with the government. In every single emerging market, naming one that is not relevant to do business with the government. The key client for companies are the government officials, are the government entities. These are definitely something that you need to take care of. And think about what is the value added and the reputation that you have and the value added against your competitors. Because in the emerging markets, when you're doing and dealing with bribery, again, I repeat, in all the emerging markets, most of the emerging markets are corruption and security are the main issues in different scales. So, are you willing to invest, or are you willing to keep reacting and do the firefighting fight? That's something that you need to reflect on. And then again, I call this as a auto-regulation, right? As a filter. It doesn't mean that it won't happen. It means if it happens, you know how to tackle it. In emerging markets, it means that it's an auto-regulation. It's a filter. It's a card. When you show your business card, you say ISO 37001 anti-bribery management systems. So that immediately clicks. You know, people, when they are tempted to offer or receive or give promise or solicit any type of bribery, this is something that really can stop, and you think about it. People, when they are just facing this type of issues, you're now right now sitting here, your sales or commercial people are right now doing business on your behalf, or on behalf of the company. They may not think about, okay, what's the page number 3 of the code of conduct, paragraph 4, saying about this. They need something that is really tangible, that can really be owned by someone. That someone can really reinforce the culture of the company. It's all about, there's a factor here that we cannot control all the time, but we can work on it, which is people, the human factor, right? So this is an auto-regulation or filter, or a break for bribery. This is something that is applicable for all entities, especially for SMEs as well. I mean, it's something that's available for the SMEs. This is something that really robust the compliance programs. There's nothing new. It's just maybe just tweak it here and there, and maybe some other countries need more work to do. Maybe you're having a reputation and recognition in the market, a differentiator in the market. How many of you wants to have a differentiator in the market? And there are people right now in different parts of the world, in emerging markets, in Mexico where I live, they want to be the first. Because being the first, they know they can send the right message to the community, to their competitors, and to the market. And they, again, these companies that we're dealing with may not have the best reputation, but they are committed to change the culture of the company. It is looking in the future. It doesn't delete the past. You cannot delete the past. You have to deal and face the past. You have to look for the future. So, at the end, the question is how to meet the bribery risks. You know, and this is something. This is a personal reflection, and I want to bring it as an example because it was the toughest question I have been asked. Daddy, what's bribery? You know, when your 6-year-old daughter sits next to you and you are typing an email and she's trying to learn how to read and she reads the word bribery, it was the toughest question that I have been asked. You can ask many questions after this, you know, I'm more than pleased, but don't ask me this one because you may know that one. But when a 6-year-old is asking you, Daddy, what's bribery? And it's the toughest. How you explain bribery to a 6-year-old that has not been exposed yet to these type of situations in her life? She's the oldest one. And I said, she plays softball. And I said, okay, I need to find an explanation about the game, right? And that's the only thing that she may understand. So when softball is about the rules. It's about following the rules in order and the strategy to win a game. And you play as a team, and you also have your own stats, which make you succeed or be more reliable or being the leader of the team, But if you don't follow those rules, and you're trying to fool the empire, or you're trying to fool the people that are in your team, it makes you're not following the rules and you're committing something illegal. And I say, okay. What happened when I steal first base to second base? So that's bad? No, that's part of the rule. That allows it. It's part of the game. Okay, and you keep doing that because that's what makes us win. But that's part of the game. So, but here's the deal. How to mitigate bribery risks. When someone asks you these type of questions, and then you start thinking about the right answers, there's no right answers. There's something that you can really build on a standard that can help your organizations to prevent and mitigate bribery risks. And you can explain to your employees how to disseminate this culture about what is effective and why this is important, and why we are doing it, and what it means to you and to your company. As you can tell, I'm very passionate for this subject. I'm very passionate because I have been working for this for many, many years, and have invested a lot of my heart, not only my mind, but my heart in this part of it. And when I get a chance to speak in these type of events, I really, really want to pour out my passion for you guys, because this is something that we are discussing here. But in the meantime, I wanted you to take away the key things that will impact that you can implement in your companies. Because this is not about us speaking nice about a standard. It's about something that we owe to our next generations. And there's something that my daughter will pick up, and then she will think, okay, what is bribery? I need to tackle it from a different angle. So I want to leave you that reflection with you guys. How to mitigate bribery risk. It comes very simple as in the standard. Plan, do, check, act. 4 things. You start with a risk assessment. You start with identifying your own issues and implementing and doing the implementation, doing the right assessment, asking for certification. Seems to be very, very simple. But reality is not. Reality is not. I just give you this type of examples because I really, really believe in this standard. I really, really think that emerging markets are facing and dealing with different type of issues that we're dealing here in Canada. Actually, I live in the U.S. across the border, and this is my second time being in Canada, and it's a beautiful place. But I think we need to focus on what's going on outside Canada. We need to focus on understanding where are my key issues, where's the key problem that I'm facing right now in the market. And I want to leave you with a last reflection. This is something that I don't know how many have seen in Netflix, Sherlock. Have you seen that Sherlock? No? Well, if you see, I love it. I'm very passionate for it. And one of the things that I read once, and I think I heard that story, is that there was Sherlock and Watson camping, laying down on the grass, and then suddenly in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., they opened their eyes, and Sherlock said, "Hey, Watson, wake up and look at the stars. What do you think about it? Oh, look at the constellation. They are beautiful, Everything is about eloquent and nice poetry in the middle of the night about the stars. He's a philosopher." And then Watson asked Sherlock, "What do you think about it?" "I don't know anything about the stars, but I know someone stole our tent." Yes. So we are always thinking about something bigger and something huge and something that's beyond our eyes. But maybe we are not seeing what's the closest thing and the most evidential thing that we can definitely paying attention. And what's out there are tools. These are nothing like a tool. A tool that we can always speak the same common language, a tool that we can understand each other, and a tool that definitely will add value to your organizations. Really, believe me. And I'm really passionate for it. I'm very open to have any Q&A. I'll leave you my contact information there for any type of questions or anything that you want to ask via email or via cell phone or via mobile. Usually the cell phone is good because I'm not in the office most of the time. But more than happy to have any questions on the floor here to discuss further about it. Okay. The baby can ask a question too. Yeah, I think there's a microphone because they are recording it. Right?
Yeah, so my question is regards to certification. One of the challenges I think that we face in my organization is to find an independent firm to really certify an organization that does business in 50 countries. Thus far, we're not necessarily looking into certifying. We're looking at the possibility of it. And I just want to have your take on if there are firms big enough to certify a company that does operations in 50 countries.
Sure, great question. And the answer is yes. This is how it works. And I learned this throughout the years. I didn't know anything about ISO until I started this project, 2014. And the certification bodies are independent parties that does management system. They need to go to accreditation process. I mean, there's a standard called 17021-9 that they need to follow and then to implement, because that's the anti-bribery portion of it. There are 17021-1 till 9. There are different ones, but they need to follow the 9, which is related to the bribery. When that is implemented, which could take between 3 to 6 months, and I know, and I can give you referrals to different entities that are that have global presence, that are looking into this accreditation process. There's only one that has been accredited yet, and your certification that you are seeing, probably entities has been certified there, is our unaccredited certifications, not yet by the ISO. But why is this happening? Because the accreditation body, the certification bodies, they need a pilot to show the accreditation body how they are doing it, how they're implementing. So basically, that's right now is going on. It has been only a year after the ISO 37001. That's a process that has been developing. Me, myself, I'm a lead auditor on ISO 37001 and soon to be a lead implementer, even though I work on this for many years. And here's the process. There are different certification bodies that can have a global presence and can definitely assess you in maybe not on only 50, but in different regions that can definitely rely on you and help you in that. However, the key challenge of the certification bodies are basically the technical experts. That's the key issue, because they need to prove that they have a technical expert or an expertise in-house that can definitely prove and support the certification body and the audit process. They can be part of the team as a lead auditor or as an auditor, or they can be as an external, as an expert. Okay, so right now we are basically building the market, and we are definitely right now in this part of the world where very few of us. And that's why we are just launching a campaign of having more people being accredited, that have expertise in the area, but also have the credentials to be an expert, as a technical expert, to support the certification bodies. So it's an ongoing process, and then we have been only a year. We just referred to the 9001, which is we all know about that one, right? It's very mature, has been over 30 years now, and you need to build up. And I think this one will pick up the pace faster, because right now bribery is a key issue and a common discussion everywhere in the world, not only in emerging markets, but also in different parts of the world that has more mature compliance program, more robust legislation that can prevent bribery. But definitely, that's a great question, and I can more than happy to refer you to different entities. Anybody else? Okay, I think, are we on time or we still have time? Oh, we're on time. Perfect. So thank you so much for your time, and more than happy to answer any further questions in person, and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.